Our congressional speaker is Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona. When she is not running around her district near Phoenix, she is just running or biking or swimming. That's because Representative Sinema is a fierce competitor in triathlons, and as well as doing public policy, she does healthcare at its root. I had a chance to hear her speak a few months ago at a modern healthcare event out in Phoenix, and this was a room full of all kinds of people at all levels of healthcare management and both sides of the political spectrum. And I was blown away. I think everyone else in the room felt strongly that she had a unique grasp of issues, and the way she was able to relate to each and every one in the audience was very compelling. That is something that Representative Sinema is known for, knowledge of important topics and working with people on both sides of the aisle. She is a champion for children's health care, veterans, and fights to protect services for the elderly and underprivileged. I think, like I was last year, you're going to be very impressed by her. So let's bring her on the stage. Happy to introduce Kyrsten Sinema.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me here this afternoon. And Chip, thank you so much for that kind introduction. Although when he started to talk about running and biking and swimming, I started to think, oh, why aren't I doing that now? Right? It's such a beautiful day. The weather's great. But it is wonderful to be here today with hospital leaders from Arizona and around the country. Actually, I can't see any of you. Yeah. Has anyone else mentioned that? Yeah. So you can do whatever you want. I won't even notice. It's fine. Yeah, take a break, get a snack, check your phone, it'll be fine. But it is delightful to be here with all of you, and I'm very excited to get to join you this afternoon. And hearing from each of you who are the experts and the decision makers in your field really helps guide the work that I do in Congress. And that's why I spend as much time as I can at home listening and learning from Arizonans, like the folks who work at Valley Hospital in Phoenix or St. Luke's Hospital in Tempe, about the work that needs to be done to our healthcare system in America. Some of you might know I'm not like most people in politics. Growing up, there were many years of my childhood and several of my years in adulthood where I didn't have health insurance. My family couldn't always afford food, let alone a trip to the doctor. And so I know firsthand how important it is for hospitals to ensure that we have lower costs and expansion of access to care, because I know what it's like to have that care be outside of my reach. See, I was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, into a middle-class family, but I was only middle class until my dad lost his job. I was in elementary school when that happened, and pretty quickly thereafter, my parents got divorced, and my mom, who was a homemaker with a high school diploma, struggled to take care of 3 kids on her own. First, we lost our car, although who would repossess an orange El Camino is beyond me. But off it went. And then we lost our home. For almost 3 years, my family lived in an old abandoned gas station, and we didn't have running water, we didn't have electricity, and sometimes we didn't have enough food to eat. We made it through those tough times thanks to hard work and help from family, friends, and our community. And we were lucky because after just 3 years, my stepdad found work, and we were able to move out of that gas station and into a small home. And we never really made it back to the middle class, but things got better for our family. In some ways, we were quite lucky because for the most part, we were pretty healthy. We knew, though, that one serious medical bill would have devastated our family. And my family's experience is not unique. It's actually all too familiar, because hardworking families in Arizona and across the country know the feeling of being just one illness or injury away from financial disaster. One medical bill might mean that a family won't be able to make their mortgage payment or pay off those student loans. I meet too many parents at home in Arizona who have to think twice before taking their kids to the doctor. And according to a poll that was conducted last year by Ipsos, more than half of all American households have received a medical bill they couldn't afford. Medical debt is now the #1 reason that someone is contacted by a debt collector. And that's where you all come in, because hospitals are leading the way when it comes to cutting costs for consumers and expanding access to care. Your ability to help and to heal has never been greater. American hospitals are the global leaders in cutting-edge, cost-effective care, promoting value over volume, and preventing illnesses before they even happen. And these are all advances that keep Americans healthy at prices that they can afford. You know, according to the Commonwealth Fund, we spend about $9,200 on every American's health care per year. In Arizona, we're working to lower these costs through advances in medical care, improved care coordination, and better patient monitoring. But you all know this better than everyone. The hospital is a unique institution in American culture. Hospitals and their employees save lives and provide comfort and well-being. And your organizations are also pillars in the community. You keep local economies humming in cities, towns, and everywhere in between. You create jobs and opportunities for everyday people. And for all the good that you do, your work is harder now more than ever, because many hospitals across the country are struggling under increased drug and labor costs, market disruptions, and just a bit from the volatility and chaos that comes from Washington, D.C. Of course, chaos and unpredictability and these political games produce uncertainty, and they produce confusion. Right now, the unpredictability of Washington does real damage to hospitals' ability to provide quality, affordable care to everyday families. What you all need is some solid ground to stand on, and this town has a reputation for being swampy. But as we work towards an American healthcare system that works for regular people, Congress has to just stop playing the games and come together to create laws that stand the test of time. We know that for healthcare reform to last, both sides have to put partisanship aside, and we need to have a serious and thoughtful debate about America's healthcare system. One party cannot and should not try to do this alone. You can't fix a system by only considering the ideas and proposals that come from one side of the aisle. Our hospitals, our healthcare system, and hardworking families across the country need both parties to come out from these corners and work together to create ideas and lasting solutions. And I talk about this because bringing people together to help everyday Arizonans is nothing new to me. You know, after I got to go to college, and I was lucky that I got to go to college, I became a social worker. And I chose social work because I wanted to help kids and families that I served get their chance and their shot at the American dream, just like I had. But I saw injustice all around me that prevented families and children that I worked with from achieving their dreams and from getting that shot. And I wanted to make a larger impact and create lasting change for Arizona's women, seniors, veterans, families. And so I ran for the State House and State Senate in Arizona, right? But I got elected, and once there, I helped Arizona's veterans get in-state tuition at public universities, fought against sex trafficking, and supported tougher penalties for domestic violence abusers. What I learned quickly when I got to the State House was that the only path to real lasting results is to build relationships and trust on both sides of the aisle and focus on the areas where we can agree. And once we get past all of the partisan rhetoric, I was able to form respectful relationships, find common ground, and I got a lot of great things done for Arizonans. And that's the approach I take now in the United States Congress. I will work with literally anyone to solve our country's challenges. I heard you laughing. I don't know who you're thinking of. No idea. But it's important to be willing to work with literally anyone in this town when we talk about healthcare, because healthcare is a priority for every member of Congress. We have different ideas of how to solve the challenges we face, but it is a priority for all of us. And it ought to be the one issue that makes members of Congress roll up their sleeves, if they're wearing any, and work together to make progress. But instead, the chaos and dysfunction we see in Washington was on full display last year during that debate about health reform. It may not seem like it so far, but I do have some good news to share from Congress. It's hard to believe, but Congress can actually still come together and come up with some bipartisan agreements. I know that this is true because I'm a part of a group called the Problem Solvers. It's appropriately named. We're not that creative, but we're hard workers, right? And there's more than 50 of us, Republicans and Democrats together, who meet on a regular basis, and all we do is work together to find real, lasting solutions to our country's challenges. One of the areas we've been working on diligently for the last year is stabilization of the market. And fingers crossed, we're hoping to see some of the fruits of that work show up in the next omnibus on March 23rd. We are working very hard to get a stabilization package to make sure the market stays stable as we move into the next fiscal year. So fingers crossed. But while the leaders of our party have been hurling insults and bickering like children with each other, we worked together to find a solution that would work for everyday Arizonans and Americans. And the bill that we introduced, which is the Bipartisan Market Stabilization and Innovation Act, is something that we know that both parties can agree on. It stabilizes the individual market by funding cost-sharing reduction payments, and it creates patient and state stability funds that can be used for reinsurance. Importantly, it also leaves our current Medicaid system in place, which has been hugely important to Arizona's efforts to improve access to affordable care and reduce uncompensated care. Unfortunately, in recent months, the party leadership was more interested in scoring political points than passing real solutions like ours. But we've been continuing to push forward, and we hope, and we continue to work to see some of our ideas for stabilization of the market end up in a package that you'll see later this month. My work with the Problem Solvers gives me hope as we look towards this year's elections. And I hope it gives you hope as well, because you could use some. But many of our members are new to Congress. We are up-and-comers from both political parties, and we come together to find solutions and get stuff done. And people want to hear about that every day, everywhere I go. People tell me that they're frustrated with Washington. When I talk to Arizonans, they say, look, I don't want to worry about what's going wrong with Washington. I can't count on you guys to solve our problems. I'm worried about putting gas in the car and making sure my kids can get to college. For the first time ever in Arizona's history, parents are worried that their kids won't have a better life than the life that they've had. And while they're trying to pay bills and take care of their kids, they see a bunch of politicians in Washington fighting like children. No wonder they're fed up. But our country, while we're facing a lot of problems right now, I believe we can't simply just wait for the next election to solve them. Everyday Americans are counting on us to come together and find these solutions now so that Washington works for them instead of against them. But I believe we're going to see a new generation, my generation, of adults coming to Congress. We are public servants. We share a view that real leadership is about reaching across the aisle and doing the hard work to solve problems for everyday people. They are the simple ingredients that are necessary for Congress to kick this partisan habit and focus on what's actually important in healthcare: providing stability, controlling costs, and increasing quality and access for everyday Americans. But in this effort, we need you. We need your voices to help guide and inform this process. Reforming healthcare has always been a challenge and will continue to be a challenge. And members of Congress and their staffs will need thoughtful experts to help provide insight and guidance. And you all are the experts. So like each of you, I expect more from Congress. I think Washington can do better. I expect elected officials to put country over party. I know, new idea. But it's time for politicians in Washington to do what's best for the American people. So I'm going to continue to go to work each day, being the happy warrior that I am, and I'll push forward with thoughtful solutions that both sides can agree on. And I know that over time, our solutions, our bipartisan solutions, will pass, and they will stand the test of time. So thank you so much for the work that you do, not just to provide care to the millions of Americans who depend on you every day, but for being innovative and pushing the envelope and making the system as efficient and effective as it can be. Thank you for being happy warriors as well. Thanks so much.